In marginalized communities throughout the nation, people wake up and go to sleep every night, hoping they will not be genocide. I'm sorry, hoping they will not be displaced in their community by gentrification. The very entities that are supposed to work towards preventing this are the very entities that have been in control and are part of the problem why marginalized communities have little control. Tonight, we're going to talk about changing the narrative, talking about first who controls in the community, old school. And then the second part, we'll talk about new school, how the community curates its own table to control its future, a bottom up approach. Okay, let's get started. And I want you to remember throughout this presentation, ghetto pimping.
Progress.
So I'm sure most people that live in marginalized communities understand the term ghetto pimping. Ghetto pimping. Can I say it? Ghetto pimping. That's the art of ongoing organizations coming in, claiming they're going to change the narrative, improve the quality of life of residents in marginalized communities. But time after time after time, the community remains the same. We're changing it. My name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development and the National Institute for Strategic and Tactical Planning. So we come to the table with over 40 years experience in the area of community and economic development. We focus on empowering marginalized communities. That is moving from a community that is on the outside of the table. And we know that's most of the time when development concerns, when development occurs in a poor community. So that is moving from a community that is on the outside of the table of power to creating a resident-driven power model that puts the community in the driver's seat. How do we do this? But let's first talk about why is it that communities continue to be the same old after every initiative or project that has come. When we look at the reason why marginalized communities begin to remain the same, it's because of the people that are normally in control. This is normally, and the majority of those people are in the age range between 40 to 65. They are above average income. They're above average in education. They tend to be businesses and operational and professional occupations. They tend to be long-term residents. They often do not reflect the culture of the population. They control the key resources in the community. To add insult to injury, they are located inside the neighborhood and control elsewhere, like hospitals and universities. So while they're located in the neighborhood, they're controlled elsewhere, like hospital, university, and things of that nature. And finally, they are outside of the community in terms of location and ownership. The power structure that is stopping so many communities from being able to transform their neighborhoods is primarily because it's coming from the outside. How do we change that? And how do we create a bottom up approach where residents in the community, along with other shareholders, create the controlling table? Well, we do that with a new school of thinking. The previous presentation was an old school way of doing things, the old school in which those who are traditionally in control what goes on in the community. We use a new school approach. What is power? See, power is the ability to have something that somebody wants and is willing to give something of value for it. That's power. So how do we create power? Well, first let's talk about what community empowerment is. Community empowerment is the ability to use different types of capitals to my left as a powerful force to creating, controlling, designing, and implementing a community vision. So what does that consist of? Well, first, it consists of cultural capital or people capital. You have to be able to mobilize and inspire a large percent of your community to come to the table. And some of these people might have been people or organizations that don't work well with each other. But you have to make sure that you got community-wide support. That's a key component to putting together the power structure to creating the table for the community. Next is social capital. That's the ability to partnership with others, government agencies, nonprofits, institutions of higher learning, um, other nonprofits, and other types of entities to put together network, partnership, collaborations as part of your social capital. Social capital is the ability to bring different resources and organizations together. The next type of capital you have to have is to have financial capital. Financial capital is the ability to bring together the financing you need in order to bring about your vision. That's a partnership between the public, private, and other partners. This is when nonprofits begin to understand how to do deal making with lenders like banks and investors and other individuals to bring that needed fund to the community. That's the ability to knock out the middleman, because normally someone comes in that has to facilitate that conversation with the banks. Is an empowered community has the ability to cut out the middleman and go directly to creating a deal for the community in terms of having that public-private relationship, especially that relationship with banks and corporations. That becomes a key focus towards bringing money into the community. This is important, and I'm going to mention it again because he who controls the goal control. One of the weaknesses of past organizations has been the reliance on other organizations to bring in the money to the community. And when the money leaves, then so does the programs and projects in the community. It's the same way. Under this approach, you create your own goal by being able to create a stream of revenue by direct conversations with banks and investors and other subsidies that the government brings to the table to make change to the table. I can't overemphasize this here because he who controls the goal control. And this is how you control the goal because you bring together your own funding mechanism. Again, you'll be able to create that public, private, and other partnership that leads to bringing in the equity as well as the revenue to come in to create the plan that you want. It has to be a multi-revenue type of strategy to bring in those type of dollars so that you position yourself as a community to control. I spend a lot of time on this because he who controls the money control. Now, let's go ahead and continue the presentation because I'm going to repeat all of this, but I had to stop this because this is the most important sector, the financial sector is. Your ability to understand how to create a deal with both investors, to create a deal with investors, lenders. Some of the deals that you can create includes workforce development, where you bring in opportunities for residents to get jobs, or it might be community development related to affordable housing, where you're bringing in dollars to do affordable housing and mixed income housing in your neighborhood. When you reach this particular level of being able to do a deal, that's when you become a major player in your community. There's government agencies and other entities that have monies necessary for you to do what you need to do as a community. That means money in terms of affordable housing, youth program, economic development. It goes on the line. But you definitely need to have financial capital. Now, you get a lot of this when you have a strategic plan. That's why it's important that the community has its own strategic planner that works for and on behalf of the community. Up until this point, when it came to putting together strategic plan, the entity that's coming in will bring in its people to create the strategic plan, the 5-year plan. He who controls the goal controls. When you look at your financial capital, that's important. That goes to show that, in fact, you know how to go after money. Just like the ones that are coming into the community and pimping the community. Now you understand financial capital in order to have the power necessary to create the change that you want to bring about. So that financial capital is very important because most time other people bring financial capital to the community and the community become dependent on that component. With this component as part of your strategy, now you actually control. But you can't control unless you have a strategic plan. And again, I go back to you should hire the person that creates your strategic plan. Pretty much that's what we do. We work with communities, a marginalized community, and creating their own community and creating their own 5 year plan. Also, you need is human capital. That means people with different types of skill sets to come in with the different areas of specialty in order to make sure you got a tight operation. The other thing, and probably one of the most important, is political um, capital. A lot of people will tell you that they're not into politics, but politics control everything from the shoes on your foot to the clothes that you wear. Everything is controlled by power. Another capital that I want to mention that I don't have here, and that's going to be technology capital. Understanding this new era of artificial intelligence, chat GPT, Web3, and being able to use it as a tool to create and empower communities. So that's an important component I wanted to add on. I didn't see it here. I should have had that as one of the components. But yeah, technology, artificial intelligence, chat GPT, and Web3 is going to change the narrative when it comes to marginalized communities becoming empowered communities. Politics. This approach then begin to show how neighborhoods can finesse the change that they want to bring about in order to change the sanity of people coming in and consistently leaving after all of the resources have since disappeared. Okay, so let's talk about the two organizations that are coming together, the Center for Nonprofit and the National Institute for Strategic Planning coming together in order to build our forces to create a national face and begin to really begin to create the change that communities want to see. So I'm really happy to announce today the partnership that has come together to strengthen our mission to enhance and change marginalized community. As you know, the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development focuses on curating the narrative for change. For the most part, this page talked about community development. I'm sorry, this page talked about nonprofit development. On this page, we had over 1,600 organizations that's following us, and we're following over 72 organizations. As you know, the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development, especially on the nonprofit side of the table, provided training to over and continue to provide training to over 5,000 um, in, in, in person and online training classes. Since 2009, we've been doing um, these classes in terms of enhancing the skill sets of nonprofits. We teach all stages of nonprofit development as well as how to get funding. So since 2009, on average, we've been providing assistance in terms of technical assistance uh, to start up nonprofits and existing nonprofits, probably about 200 uh, per year since 2009. And when you add that, we've been able to provide at least online training to another 4,000. When we provide our online training, we reach the largest number of people in terms of the training that we provide. So while we prepare all types of training, the training that we see is most popular is how to start a nonprofit and how to fund a nonprofit and then how to grow a nonprofit. So we provide all type of technical assistance, but when it comes to most popular, those those are the ones that are most popular. That being the case, we're gonna create another component that's going to really focus on community development. Because if we're going to change the narrative in terms of how do we transform poor communities, then we have to have a strategic. Now, keep in mind before we move to the next component, next organization, the branch of the organization that dealt with nonprofit development focused on programs and program design, um, organizational capacity, organizational development, and all those things pertaining to making sure the organization has the capacity to reach its mission, vision. The next part is focused on what we're looking at. How do you use community development as a approach to um, transforming poor communities using economic development and as well as community development mixed together. So the focus of this next page that we're talking about is going to be focused on that. So when you see us up on this page, which is coming up, and that it's the National Institute, is going to be more likely than not, although sometimes we're going to be doing programs, but it's going to be more likely to focus on structural changes in terms of transforming our communities when it comes to economic development, social development, and physical development related to bricks and mortar and beyond. Data-based, evidence-based, plausible, feasible, fundable approach. So that brings us to the new organization. What's that? Oh, I unfortunately only caught part of that. I talk about the fact that we focus on data-based, evidence-driven approaches that are both feasible as well as fundable when we look at creating the change necessary. Not new, it's been in the background, but now we're bringing it out to begin to focus on community transformation. The Center for, actually, the National Institute for Strategic and Tactical Planning is working along the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development. As you know, the both of the different components are training institutions in which we teach different types of skill sets. I didn't mention that in the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development, we provide about 15 different types of training. The National Institute for Strategic and Tactical Planning, our primary purpose is to begin to work with nonprofits to create a power structure that allows them to determine what their community look like. The missing element in most community development activities is that the residents or the people and shareholders in their community are left on the outside. Our approach is to teach the community how to create the table, that they are the ones that determine their future. This was kind of long-winded, but I'm so happy now with the combination of the Center for Nonprofit and the National Institute for Strategic Planning. We're going into the year 2024 more bolder, more determined than ever to create the narrative of building from the ground up and giving actually the residents of those marginalized communities the ability to determine their future. So I hope this has helped you. I know I'm kind of long-winded, but you're gonna be hearing a lot from us over the next